Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Apitimiswak Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Can I get a motion, please, for the adoption of the agenda for June 16th? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that the agenda for the June 16th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, for the minutes of the June 2nd, 2026 regular meeting of council? Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that the minutes of the June 2nd, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings. We do have a presentation and delegation this evening. I will be removing myself due to a perceived conflict of interest, and will hand the chair over to Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Thank you, Mayor Zahara. So our presentation tonight is from Christy Kamoka, Executive Director of the Edson District Homelessness Task Force. Welcome, Christy, and I'll turn it over to you if you just want to turn your mic on there for me. Thank you.
Thank you. With your permission, Deputy Mayor, may I ask for an extension past 5 minutes, just a couple of minutes?
No problem at all.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone, and thank you for giving us the time today. We are here to talk about transitional and supportive housing in Edson and Yellowhead County. But more importantly, we are here to talk about how the region moves from crisis response to a coordinated, evidence-based housing solution. This is not a presentation about a predetermined site. We are not here to say that this is where it will go. We are here with the evidence, the community feedback, and the feasibility work, and the next steps required to move this forward responsibly. The theme of the work is simple: evidence, partnership, and accountability. I want to start off a little bit around the history of the task force and how it came to be, because the work did not start with this feasibility study. In 2019, Alberta Health Services, the McLeod Primary Care Network, local physicians, the mayors of Edson and Yellowhead County, and other stakeholders formed the Edson and District Health Partnership Team. The purpose of this group was to guide a long-term plan for health services in Edson and to strengthen access to integrated primary healthcare services in the area. Through those discussions, it became clear that the unhoused population was creating a large strain on the healthcare resources. This was showing up through EMS calls, emergency room visits, for things like frozen toes and people simply showing up to the hospital because they needed a place to keep warm. At that time, the decision was made to set up a homelessness task force and bring a wider group of service providers to the table, including churches, food banks, Reflections, Wayfinding, Alberta Supports, and others. Transitional housing, shelter space, and access to treatment for mental health and addictions were identified at that time as the major barriers to the community. It was also clear that not everyone around the table knew what services were being provided by each organization. The task force became a way to collaborate, identify gaps, and make sure services were not being duplicated. Then COVID hit, the task force paused while organizations dealt with the pandemic. It was later reinstated and eventually set up as the nonprofit society that you see today. For years, the group cared deeply about homelessness, while the work ebbed and flowed. It was hard to get a real movement or action because the issue is complex and no one organization can solve it alone. In 2024, funding changed that. It allowed us to move from conversation into coordinated planning, public education, practical tools, and within the first year, we were able to create a strategic plan and again focus on long-term solutions to the unhoused, education, and advocacy work. The task force is not a service provider trying to replace anyone. We are a coordinated body. Our role is to bring municipal leadership, service agencies, RCMP, fire, protective services, businesses, and community members together so we can make decisions based on evidence and shared responsibility. Our task force is one of the longest serving committees in Alberta. One of the biggest benefits to the group is due to the controversial nature of the subject of the task force. The task force acts as a conduit to the community rather than one specific organization taking the brunt of the negativity. We speak as a collective voice. Homelessness is not just a big city issue. Every community in Alberta is dealing with housing right now in some way or form. In smaller communities, it often looks different. It may be hidden, rural, seasonal, or connected to couch surfing, unsafe housing, vehicles, encampments, or people using emergency systems because there's nowhere else to go. Our local data shows at least 308 people are in unstable situations in Edson and Yellowhead County. That is a conservative number. It includes people identified in the 2022 Housing and Service Needs Estimation Count, plus the adults and children living in with those respondents. At the same time, we have 0 purpose-built transitional housing units in Edson and no scaled supportive housing for people with complex needs. So the system pays anyways, but it pays through emergency rooms, EMS, RCMP, bylaw, crisis motel stays, informal supports, and a lot of community frustration. The feasibility study estimates that the avoidable crisis system costs are already in the range of $300,000 to $500,000 annually. The question is not whether we're paying for homelessness, we already are. The question is whether we keep paying through a crisis system or we start to invest in a structured path forward. The Community Encampment Response Plan is an important example of the practical work the task force has been doing. It does not solve homelessness by itself. No encampment plan can do that. But it reduces confusion, improves safety, and helps connect people to supports while longer-term housing is built. Before this, responses were often reactive and case by case. Sometimes some things became visible, there was public pressure, and then everyone tried to respond. That is frustrating for residents, it's frustrating for businesses, enforcement, and service providers. Now the plan clarifies roles. RCMP and protective services and fire are responsible for enforcement where safety or legal issues require it. Fire has clear role when there is a fire risk. Reflections helps connect people to supports and basic needs. Balanced enforcement matters. Not enough enforcement can make the public feel unsafe and increase pressures on businesses. Too much enforcement can destroy trust and simply move people from one unsafe sleeping location to another. The goal is a coordinated response that supports public safety while keeping the focus on housing pathways. Rural Development Network recently told us that we are the only one small community in Alberta that they know of that has enacted a plan that is like this. It usually only happens in larger communities. This shows that the group commitment to collaboration, community safety, and finding solutions that work for the community as a whole. The survey was open from April 1st to April 29th, and it received 253 responses. We used both online and paper copies because we wanted to reach a different part of the community, not just the people who were already engaged online. It was distributed through the Chamber of Commerce, Facebook, businesses, FCSS, Food Bank, Reflections, churches, community organization, and direct stakeholder networks. We did not avoid the negative feedback. In fact, the negative feedback was an important part because it helped us identify what the project must address if we're going to earn the community trust. Overall support was at 59.7% or 151 responses. When we break that out by location, the support was higher in Yellowhead County at 67%, 67.4%, and 55.5% for the town of Edson. That difference matters. County respondents showed stronger support for long-term solutions, even though the project would likely be located in Edson. Town respondents are closer to the visible impacts, so their support is more cautious and their concerns are more immediate. This was not a referendum. It was a listening exercise. The community is not unanimous, but the majority see that the pressures they want and wants a structured long-term response with safeguards. On this slide, we are looking at the overall community-wide results, not separating town and county. Overall, 52.2% of respondents said supportive and transitional housing would be likely or very likely to improve safety in public spaces such as parks, trails, and downtown areas. A stronger 65.2% said housing could reduce emergency service calls, either yes or maybe. I want to be balanced here. Safety is a theme that runs through this survey in two directions. Some people believe housing can improve safety by reducing visible homelessness and crisis calls. Others worry that the wrong operating model could make safety worse. The answer is not to say, just trust us. The answer is clearly around rules, qualified staff, security, on-site services, safety planning, and public reporting. Those safeguards are what turns concern into design. These concerns are real and they should not be dismissed. Overall, the top concerns were drug and alcohol use at the property, crime and property damage, neighborhood safety, impact on nearby businesses, and lack of rules. This feedback does not mean that the community is saying do nothing. It means that the community is saying if you do this, do it properly. A lot of opposition is concentrated among people who have direct experience with the visible impacts of homelessness, including businesses. Some people are also carrying frustration from the shelter pod experience, and they want to know what will be different this time. We also need to challenge one assumption that sometimes shows up in these conversations. Not every person experiencing homelessness is a drug dealer, a drug user, a criminal, or someone who refuses help. Some are dealing with poverty, disability, mental health challenges, domestic violence, job loss, family breakdown, or housing that is unsafe or unaffordable. At the same time, we cannot ignore safety, drug use, crime, and business impact. Those concerns have to stay at the center of the design and of the operations. They are the reason for the model, including 24/7 staffing, clear rules, security measures, good neighbor practices, and accountability. This is the pivot from the survey results to project design. When people told us that what had to be in place, the message was clear, consistent across Yellowhead County and the town of Edson. For the county respondents, the top 5 were clear rules and expectations, 24-hour staff, security measures, on-site support, and strong safety and emergency planning. For the town, the top 5 were clear rules and expectations, 24/7 qualified staff, on-site support services, security measures, and a clear accountability from the operator. Those are not unreasonable requests. They are exactly what a well-managed housing program should include. The message is clear. No unmanaged housing, no vague promises, no project without staffing, rules, security, support services, or accountability. This also matches what the stakeholders said in January. The proposed model is a hybrid transitional and supportive housing development. It is not an emergency shelter, and it is not unmanaged congregate housing. The project is planned at 32 to 40 units because that's the scale that matches the documented need and also the operating model that has the most financial viability. Transition housing supports people who need stable and a pathway forward. Some people need up to 24 months of support while they rebuild their income, ID, healthcare, life skills, and stable housing plan. Supportive housing is for people who with chronic or complex homelessness who need long-term supports to stay housed. These are often the people cycling through EMS, RCMP, emergency rooms, and crisis services. The flexible stabilization units allow the project to adjust as the needs change over time. Rent would be geared to income at 30%, and eligibility would be rooted in an Edson and Yellowhead County, including a local residency requirement. The model includes 24/7 staffing, security, on-site supports, and co-located services such as Reflections, Recovery Alberta, and Qualified Case Management. The goal is not to just house people, but to stabilize them. The feasibility study says the project is viable, but it is not easy. Capital costs are significant. Depending on whether the project is a renovation, a new build, or a mid-range scenario, the estimates range from $6.4 million to $13.9 million. Operating costs are also significant. The annual operating range is estimated between $778,000 to just over $1 million before final agreements and billing frameworks are confirmed. Operating funding is one of the biggest risks. Staffing is also a real challenge. We need qualified workers, proper wages, and a sustainable funding model so the burden does not shift back to the community. The study rates the overall risk position as moderate to manageable because the risks are named now and mitigation has started now. No site has been confirmed. That is important. This is still a pre-development project that requires the assessment, cost confirmation, operating agreements, and public engagement before a final decision. The next step is to move from feasibility to disciplined pre-development. That means releasing the study, sharing the results with council partners and the community, and begin a transparent site assessment process. We also need to develop a partnership with a housing authority. The task force has been very clear that we want to stay involved in the project, but we are not the experts at building management and need a partner to be that expert. It means engaging businesses and neighbors before any site decision is made, because a community acceptance and good neighbor planning have to be built from the beginning. It also means formalizing the operating, service, safety, and good neighbor agreements so that the model is accountable before anybody moves in. The task force will also need to confirm costs through a Class C estimate and coordinate a funding package that will include CMHC, provincial funding, rural development network, and community contributions. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? No questions from council. Councillor Taylor, who is online with us this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Gomulka, thank you so much for your presentation. Of course, as you know, I've served on the task force since 2021, and I'm committed to finding solutions to homelessness, like the task force, and working towards sustainable housing and the model that you spoke about. So, question for you, the task force: what's the biggest challenge that the task force is facing at this time, and what are the plans to sort of meet that challenge that you're facing?
So clearly, as we moved through the feasibility study, clearly there is actually two of the two challenges that I would consider are significant challenges. One is around operating costs. I'm not scared about capital funding. I think that would be the easier get at the end of it. But operating is often more of a challenge. We need to start having conversations with Recovery Alberta to see whether or not we could become a recovery center or have that kind of designation happen so we can access some of that funding. It would be necessary. And also the model calls for hopefully other existing service providers working under the same roof to lessen the operating costs. The operating costs are high because when we costed it out, we were costing it at for a lot of qualified people. Like, we're not taking people off the street and making them into security guards. We're paying for high quality security guards. You know, a registered social worker is $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Like, those things are fairly high. And so just understanding from the survey that was one of the major issues that the community had, is ensuring that everybody was qualified. That's the operating model we went for. And then the second issue, I think, is just having a partnership with a housing authority, because the task force has made it very clear that they are not experts at building management and do not want to become building managers. We would stay involved in the project. We would even, be part of the service provider of the building, but the building itself would need more expertise than anybody that we have currently sitting around that table. So that would be our next task as well, is to create that partnership with a housing authority that's willing to take us on. The other piece to that housing authority is that we were very close to getting around $250,000 for some pre-development work, but they have decided now that they're only giving it to housing authorities. So they have access to funding that just as a nonprofit we don't have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will say thank you, and thanks to the entire Homelessness Task Force for keeping us updated, and we look forward to the process moving forward. Thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much. Thank you. All right, I will now turn the chair back over to Mayor Zahara.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty, for that. We are going to move on to F, bylaws. We're talking about A6 debenture bylaw number 2335, and I think we'll hand things over to Acting CEO Kitlitz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we received some new information today on the tenders for this project, so we're asking that council consider moving the meeting into a closed session pursuant to Section 30 of the Access to Information Act.
Thank you, and we'll get that up on the screen. Can I get somebody to make the motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that the meeting move into a closed session pursuant to Section 30 of the Access to Information Act.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, thank you, everyone. We will return to open session at 7:42. We'll hand things over to GM Kitlitz just to give us an overview of the A6 project before we take second and third reading of bylaw number 2335. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the A6 project is before council tonight for the debenture bylaw. It's a project to upgrade the sanitary sewer main system between 6th Avenue and 1st Avenue along 48th Street. It won't include any other infrastructure upgrades at this time. It'll just be the sanitary with some replacements of some valves and catch basins along the way. This project was initiated as a result of the YCE project. It was part of our sanitary sewer condition assessment as an area that needed some enhancements, but it's also being triggered by the YCE multiplex project to accommodate the expansions that are occurring there as well. We'd like to have it done and completed before the YCE multiplex opened in 2027.
All right, thank you, GM Kitlitz, and also it will be crossing both 2nd and 4th Avenues, so it's critical that we have this work done prior to the repaving of those highways. Council, do we have any questions or comments before we take a motion from the floor? I can't see Councillor Taylor now. You have any questions, Councillor Taylor?
No questions through Mr. Mayor, but just a comment. Just if council does pass these bylaws, I'm fully supportive of this debenture bylaw. I spent over the last few weeks, I spent time at the budget survey and service level surveys in the community with CFO McDonald and other staff. And if you look at those survey boards, the number one thing that pops up that people talk about is upgrading infrastructure. And this project falls right in line with that. And in a perfect world, you know, and we've talked about this, in a perfect world, we would have the cash to cover all this. But in the end, sometimes governments, we have to borrow. And this is a major project, and I have no problem borrowing for it. I understand the importance for it. And the residents of Edson, those that living now and those that are in the future, will end up paying for it because everyone's going to use this multiplex and see the importance of it. So I'm supportive of the two bylaws that are being presented and understand the importance. And again, you'll see the survey when it's finally presented in the fall before budget. The number one thing people are talking about, the number one that are commenting on is upgrading infrastructure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2335.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Just want to echo what Councillor Taylor said. In addition, it will reduce flooding risk in areas of our community that have flooded. This project was deferred last year just due to the increased cost of the B1 project. So to have A6 also complete along with B1 both those projects are going to significantly mitigate the flooding risk for neighborhoods within our community. So there's lots of wins here for this as well. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And can I get a motion for third reading, please? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw number 2335.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried unanimously. And I think we have a supplementary motion that we're going to put on the screen. Can I get a motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Fogarty.
I move that council approve the budget increase of $287,385 to the A6 capital project for a total cost of $2,203,285, excluding GST.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to more infrastructure projects, we will go to the water degas upgrade debenture bylaw number 2336, presented by Denise McDonald, our Chief Financial Officer. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is the water degas upgrade debenture bylaw 2336. To begin explanation on the project itself, I'll pass it to GM Kitlitz to go through the project, and then he'll pass it back to me to speak to the debenture.
Go ahead, GM Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a contextual map of the water degas plant, which is located where the star is on the west boundary of town, south of Highway 16. It's existing treatment plant to treat methane gas in primarily well 18 is my understanding. This plant handles water from well 18, 19, and 20, which are actually all within Yellowhead County off the map to the south and to the west of this degas water plant. Interesting enough, in 2020, we were working on a project to upgrade this plant because there was the testing showed higher levels of methane coming from well 18, so it was requiring an upgrade to that system. At that time, we went out for a grant, and the project was about a $750,000 project, and that's where these grant funds that we do have were allocated. Shortly before we decided to go tender that project, we got new information from the province on our maximum allowable concentrations of fluoride in water. And that caused us to halt that project. New regulations. Can you advance the slide for me? Thank you, Denise. The new regulations from the province are 1.5 milligrams per liter. And we've also heard, and those are going to come into effect towards the end of 2027. Well 18, our testing shows that averages between 2 and 2.8 milligrams per liter. And well 19 and 20 average between 1.4 and 1.75. We weren't going to be able to confidently meet that maximum allowable concentration for fluoride in those three wells. We also received some information that the governments may be actually altering that regulation even further in the future to 0.7 milligrams per liter. So it required us to go back to the drawing board and do some work on design to provide fluoride removal from these wells at that treatment center. So we have until the end of 2027 to do that. This year, we ran a pilot project based on the fluoride report that was provided in 2025. What the fluoride plan did was give us some options on how to deal with fluoride in that plant. It gave us two options. Reverse osmosis was a preferred option. We did a pilot program this year to prove that that was the suitable option to remove the fluoride concentrations as per the regulation. We've since completed that. And the next step now is to complete the design and then tender the project for construction next year so we can meet our requirements to meet the fluoride concentrations by the end of 2027. Any questions for council on the project itself before I pass it back to CFO McDonald?
Thank you. Willie will go to Councillor Fogarty, and if I can get the screen minimized so I can see Councillor Taylor. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to GM Kitlitz. So the project as it currently is, if they did change the regulations to, I know it's only rumored, but would we still be in compliance with the project we're doing now?
Yes, that's my understanding, yes. The reverse osmosis will help us meet those requirements, yeah.
Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, more of a comment than anything. Safe drinking water has got to be a priority for this council and for this community. Getting those levels down to the acceptable only makes common sense. It's great to see that the Mint team has done a lot of research and found a solution to that fluoride problem coming out of the west end of the community. So it's good to see, and we'll see what the debenture bylaw looks like moving forward. But it's a project that I think definitely has to move forward regardless.
Thank you. Council, any further questions or comments for GM Kitlitz? So I do have a question, GM Kitlitz, and I think this is more of a concern. So we're going to be spending a significant amount of money, and I agree, like fluoride has been an issue on that side of the community for quite some time. We know that we don't have enough water supply for the growth that we would like to see in our community. We've had some challenges finding new well sources. So if we drill a well on the east end of town and it's high fluoride, this plant is not going to be able to do anything about the fluoride 'cause it's on the other side of town, or will it be able to deal with that as well? I understand that the majority of our water is coming from the west side of town in those wells, and we certainly can't lose that supply. Losing 25% of our water supply would be devastating for the community. So I guess that's a question I have about this project is if we're going to be spending this kind of money, do we have the facility in the right location, and will this be the best long-term solution for the town of Edson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a really good question. I think there's two things that need to be answered. One, will the proposed RO plant upgrades that we're proposing handle extra capacity of water over and above what wells 18, 19, and 20 produce? And then secondly, if it was on the east side of town, we'd have to have a pipe there, right? So the issue is getting that water to the west side of town. Manager Barisco is here. I don't know if you can answer the question about capacity for that plant to treat more water if we hooked up to it. I don't know that answer, but I'm not sure if you do or not.
Go ahead, Mr. Barisco. Put it on the hot seat.
I don't mind the hot seat there, Mr. Mayor. I guess kind of to back up a little bit, it will have, or it should have the capacity to go a little bit farther if we need it to. We'll be pretty close. The biggest thing that's going to hinder us on that is going to be the discharge. So it uses about 20% for the backwash water. So that's going to be the biggest thing for the size of the membranes. The plants we were looking at should be able to handle it for sure. So we were looking at well 30 that was already not well 30, well 29 that was there. Does have about a little over 3.2 milligrams per liter. We were thinking about putting it into there just so we could maximize the amount of our water. But to answer your question earlier, it will not help us if we find water on the other side. But as you got council will remember, the last few years we've been trying to work with the hydrologists to find out what zones and where we're at for the water. So we're trying to stay away from that fluoride zone. So they think they've got it nailed down when we're drilling our wells where the fluoride zone is. So we shouldn't be hitting that anymore. And primarily we found out that it's closer to that west-south part of our town. Any of the wells that we've looked at closer to the east and the northeast haven't had any fluoride into it. Or it's been very negligible. It's been able to blend. So we're pretty fortunate, pretty comfortable that we will not find that zone if we follow the hydrologists' kind of locations where to drill and kind of go off their recommendations.
Okay, perfect. And my understanding too is on the northeast side of town, it's more of an iron concern than a fluoride concern, correct?
Yes, through the Mr. Mayor, it's more basically manganese type iron type that's up into there, which requires a different type of green sand filter. We do have the capability that are kind of the more fortunate of those areas have sanitary sewer, so it's a little bit easier that we can put plants in those areas. And that might be something for the future where we're running a bunch of smaller wells into one plant and strategically put some plants out there until we can look at a longer term solution.
All right, thank you, Mr. Briscoe. Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to the presenter and GM Kitlitz. Actually, Mayor Zahara asked a question that I was going to ask is if we have other wells on the eastern part, if we drill new wells, we have the capacity within this plant to do it. I think he asked that question already. That was my other concern is are we going to be looking and having to add another plant in the eastern end? But I think that question has been answered. Thank you.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, the Mayor to Administration. Is it more expensive to remove the manganese? Because I know we had a couple of big wells that are high in manganese. So is it a more expensive process for manganese than it is for the fluoride, or would it be equivalent type processes?
Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny. I think it all depends on the volume we're looking at. So when we had well 16 has a green sand filter in, that filter was a little bit smaller and the volume was about 20 cubes compared to about 30 to 50. So a lot of the volume, I think the volume is the biggest thing, and it's just a different type of filter media. So when we're using an RO system, it's a completely different system than a green sand filter. Green sand filter, you're just adding chlorine, it's precipitating out into the green sand filters, and then you're just backwashing the filter. The media is fairly cheap and expensive. Whereas you're looking at the RO plant, it's a different process, different chemicals that you're adding. You have a backwash, you have membranes that are using that process to get rid of the fluoride. So really it depends on what you're trying to get rid of, to what plant you need, to the costs that come with that. And what we're trying to do with the hydrologists is stay away from those problem areas so that we're basically trying to find that high quality groundwater like we have been in the past so that it limits turbidity, fluoride, manganese, that type of stuff. So we're trying to do a little bit more of a scienced approach to kind of hit our mark right off the bat.
Thank you, Mr. Briscoe. Any other questions or comments on the project before we move to the debenture piece of this discussion? Seeing none, we'll hand things over to Ms. McDonald. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Briscoe.
Okay, just an overview of the water degas and the existing I'm on the next slide. Overview of the debenture funding and borrowing bylaw process. So the use of debenture allows a municipality to deliver the project on schedule while maintaining budgetary pressures. This approach supports intergenerational equity with past, current, and future generations contributing to the infrastructure that they benefit from. The borrowing bylaw process itself follows a clear, transparent process. It receives first reading and then it's publicly advertised for 2 consecutive weeks and proceeds through a 15-day waiting period before council is presented the bylaw again for second and third reading. Debt servicing timeline begins 6 months after the funds are drawn and aligns with financial planning with project delivery timelines. Overall, the financial summary shows a total project cost of $6,105,049 that council has already approved. For funding sources, we had indicated in our capital project that we would have grant funding, and so we have to apply for that grant funding. And so personally, I've misunderstood the staff that we hadn't received approval for that grant. So in the meantime, we will draw the funds from reserves until we're approved for grant funding. I believe that's AMWWP grant. We are working on application to increase it. We have been approved for the $268,000 in prior years. I believe that was in 21-22. And we will look for, we have had conversations with the province on increasing that grant. So in the meantime, we have to put it to reserves, and we would be looking at debenturing $3,092,100. So we have set the bylaw with a maximum term, and that's the ceiling of 25 years, and a maximum ceiling for interest of 7%. Using our current rate, we would have, looking at principal and interest payments, it would be approximately $170,000, which is supported by user fees, not taxes. So the last column is just our current financial context that shows that our existing debt at December 31st was $8,131,511, and adding $1.5 million for the A6 project, we would be sitting at $9,631,511, and we have no outstanding arrears. With that, administration is recommending that council give first reading to bylaw 2336, and then we will move to advertising for 2 consecutive weeks.
Thank you. We will open the floor to questions. Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to CFO McDonald. I think you might have already answered the questions, and I just want for clarification. First, I support the debenture bylaw as water is one of those critical infrastructures that nobody wants to live in a community where you can't drink the water. But my question is more to you said it's going to be supported by user fees, so I just want to confirm that the debenture will be supported on our utility bills as opposed to in our taxation. Is that correct?
Thank you for through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny. Yes, the payments will be supported by user fees, not taxation.
Councillor Fogarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to CFO McDonald. So you mentioned there's a possibility of more provincial grant funding that we're going to apply for. So should we receive more provincial grant funding, would we lower the debenture or lower the amount that we would take out of reserves?
CFO McDonald, go ahead.
Through the mayor to Councillor Fogarty, certainly looking for feedback from council if you would like us to lower the debenture amount. But my initial presentation when we took the budget into council was that we would not take the money from reserves and support it by grant.
Thank you. My feedback on that is I would rather replenish our reserves for this project. With so many projects that we have had, that debt is going to be supported by taxes. This is utility fees, which hits every person that is actually utilizing that utility. So I think that's a fair way to go instead of reserves that are funded primarily through taxation and other things. I do know that that grant is often oversubscribed, so we'll have to add that to our advocacy as well with the Minister of Environment or wherever that grant is currently sitting. I know we have applied in the past and have been unsuccessful, but we have also applied and then done the project and then found out a year or two later that we got funding for the said project. So, hopefully we'll have one of those situations again. Go ahead, Council Wilson-Lira.
Through the mayor to CFO McDonald, just a question also in relation to the additional grant funding opportunities. They'll be continued to be pursued for the length of the debenture, and I am for replenishing reserves as well. But is there, as we get further into it, as the reserves build back up, is there also the ability to offset future utility rates to, if the money's available in addition?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Wilson Lear. I want to say no, because the debenture amount is not going to change. So the only opportunity where we would be, have an opportunity for the user fees to be reduced would be if the interest rates go down, the borrowing rates go down, and or the whole project is tendered and the project is lower than expected, because we're just going to look for grants to replenish the reserve amount.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns on this project or on the debenture? Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, just a quick question. When we talk about user fees, is this going to be an additional line item on the utility bills, or is it already incorporated into that?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Schramm, it would not be a separate line item. It would be part of our budget and probably will hit in future budget years, so probably 27. By the time, it depends when we draw the funds, because then 6 months later, then we make our first payment. So we can manage that a little bit to determine when it'll impact the users of the water.
Councillor Pisichny?
Yeah, through the mayor to CFO McDonald. I think what Councillor Schramm's looking for, is this going to be an increase in the water rate, or are we going to have a line item like we have for the wastewater treatment plant?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny. It would be, it's part of our budget. So unless you want a specific line, if you're asking me to add a line item for it, we can try to address that, but I wasn't anticipating doing that. It'll be part of an increase to our user fees in that particular year when those principal and interest hits the books.
Yeah, and I think just to the point on the wastewater treatment plant, the money that we are collecting on that additional fee, that's going directly into reserves for future replacement costs. I don't think it's offsetting the actual debenture, because we're putting money in reserve every year for the future replacement, if I'm not mistaken. But correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Pisichny. That was.
I thought it was. I thought that my understanding, and I'm not the expert on it, but I thought that the $14 we pay is going directly towards the debenture on that project. But I'm not speaking with conviction because I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding is that money, that debenture was borrowed and is being paid for through utilities, but the additional 15 is going into reserve because we're building up that wastewater treatment reserve for future replacement costs. So we don't end up in that situation where we have to borrow again. But I could be mistaken. Councillor Taylor, you have a question?
Through the mayor, to the mayor, I had thought the same thing as Councillor Pisichny, that money was using to pay off the debenture, but just having that information and then having the exact structure of what the utility bill will look like in the future, whether it will be a line item or it will be just built into the cost, just that clarification in the future would be great, just for when residents see that increase.
I can bring back more information to council on that.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. I think for transparency sake, it'd be helpful to have that separated out so people know exactly what they're paying for. It's not, it's for an infrastructure upgrade. It's not for delivering the utility, delivering the actual water to the homes. It's for an infrastructure upgrade to provide that water. So, council, I'll take first reading of bylaw number 2336. Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 2336.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Access to Information Act, POPA bylaw number 2338. These great acronyms. Presenting Carly Williams, our legislative officer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So historically, the town has operated under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, or FOIP Act. supported by the FOIP procedures bylaw. There we go. Thank you. The province has now repealed FOIP and replaced it with two pieces of legislation, the Access to Information Act, or ATIA, and the Protection of Privacy Act, or POPA. Under this framework, ATIA governs access to information, while POPA governs how personal information is collected, used, and protected. The separation provides greater clarity, with access and privacy now treated as distinct legal frameworks. While we continue to perform the same core functions, this change does introduce meaningful updates to how public bodies carry out this work, including more structured processes and stronger privacy requirements. Some key updates to the legislation include fees are now standardized through provincial regulation rather than set by municipal bylaw. There are stronger privacy provisions, including mandatory breach reporting. All timelines are now measured in business days instead of calendar days. Clearer rules on what information can be withheld from disclosure. And as the legislation has been modernized to reflect how information is created, stored, and managed today, including electronic records. So turning to bylaw 2338, this bylaw is primarily administrative in nature and ensures the town remains aligned with the current legislation. It updates references to ATIA and POPA and maintains the Chief Administrative Officer as the head of the public body consistent with the current structure in FOIP Procedures Bylaw 1888. It is important to note that this designation for the head of the public body is specific to the access and privacy legislation, and it's separate from the CAO's role under the Municipal Government Act and under CAO Bylaw 2150. Where the CAO is responsible for overseeing the administration operations of the town and exercising powers and duties as a designated officer under the MGA. Under ATIA and POPA, however, council must formally designate a head of the public body through bylaw 2338 to carry out the statutory responsibilities related to access to information and protection of privacy. In terms of the bylaws themselves, there is minimal changes between FOIP Procedures Bylaw 1888 and ATIA POPA Bylaw 2338. One notable change relates to fees. So our fees and charges bylaw has been updated to reflect fees in ATIA. Under this new legislation, an example of fees, there is a $25 initial fee applied to general access requests. Additional fees may be applied if the estimated processing costs exceed $150. For personal information requests, there is no initial fee. However, there could be minimal copying costs if they are applicable. Overall, the fee model is cost recovery based and designed to ensure consistency across public bodies. While the legislation has evolved, the core responsibilities remain. Public bodies will continue to process access requests and protect personal information, now with a more modern and structured framework. And it is important to distinguish that while the bylaw updates are minor, the legislative changes are much more significant and will change how this work is carried out in practice. With that, it is administration's recommendation that council give first reading to bylaw 2338.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your presentation. Council, do we have any questions or comments? All right, we're taking it easy on you, Ms. Williams. Council, can I get a motion, please? We'll take one from Councillor Taylor since make sure he's involved in this meeting. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move the council give first reading to bylaw number 2338.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, National Drowning Prevention Week. Katie Barnes, our aquatic supervisor, presenting this evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just going to warn you, when the YCE multiplex opens, there are suggestions I need to go down the slide first in a Speedo. I'll just...
That sounds great.
Oh, good. Council is going to make a motion against that. That's perfect. I like that. All right, Ms. Barnes, go ahead.
So I'm just here to get a motion for the National Drowning Prevention Week. What is National Drowning Prevention Week? It's a national initiative to raise awareness about water safety. The focus is preventing drownings through education. It's about encouraging safe behaviors in and around the water. Why does this matter to our town? Drowning can happen quickly, it happens quietly. It affects all age groups. Many incidents are preventable. Actually, they're all preventable. All drowning is preventable. Many drownings, the Swim to Survive standard, many drownings happen when people didn't plan to enter the water. Through this initiative, we would be able to help people learn to swim, build confidence, take lessons together, life-saving skills all around. It focuses on supervision throughout the week. There's key highlights. So throughout the week, from Sunday all the way through to Saturday, each day focuses on something different. One of them is supervision, where kids need more than just a lifeguard. They need you to be supervising, staying within arm's reach. Only 1% of drownings occur in a lifeguard supervised setting. Choose supervised pools when possible. If not, use the buddy system, supervise actively, and keep rescue equipment nearby. One of the other focuses is boating, safety and PFDs. Wear a life jacket every time. Boating, paddling, fishing, choose it, use it, and look out for one another. The Edson District Leisure Center role, we provide a safe aquatic environment. We offer lessons and programs. We educate through water safety and safe practices. We support community awareness. Every other summer we do Water Smart Wednesdays, which focuses on water smart education, where we have lifeguards in the water that actively educate our patrons during public swim. So this is just expanding on what we already do all summer long and really focusing on that week to educate our public in and around Edson District Leisure Center, as well as we have a initiative to go to the spray park and have our lifeguards there playing games with everybody that are water smart and educating parents and the kids. That's the big plan and something new that we'd like to bring to the community. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Barnes, for your presentation. Council, do you have any questions? Taking easy on you as well. Council, I'll take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that council proclaim July 19th to the 25th, 2026 as National Drowning Prevention Week in the town of Edson.
Just like to thank you and your staff for the tremendous job you do, especially keeping that place operating as we go through construction and the numerous awards your team has won over the years for lifeguarding. Much appreciated. Council, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, not going to get off easy. Mr. O'Sullivan, come on up. We're going to talk about the fall 2025 to spring 2026 snow and ice control report. It's my favorite topic to discuss every single year. Go ahead, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to present the fall 2025, spring 2026 snow and ice control report. So our existing policy, the snow and ice OT3 was adopted council October 4th, 2022 and amended August 15th, 2023. This year's season snow events, we had 4 events with the 10 centimeter threshold, 2 of which triggered full clearing priorities. The snow dump is operated by a contractor at 1 staff, and he is needed when we push the snow to a pile from where my staff dump the snow. So our equipment that we're using is 2 graders, 2 loaders with buckets, 2 willies, 1 with a plow, 1 with a small blower, 4 tandem trucks, 1 sanding truck with a backup sander. And we have 8 staff that work 5 days a week with the option to borrow staff from other departments. I've now trained most of my parks now that have their class 3s that can help out. as well as utilities have a lot of their Class 3s as well, and option to hire contract haulers and graders. So our OT3 service levels, P1s need to be done within 72 hours. We managed 27 hours on an average. Our P2s, 120 hours. We managed about 42. P3s, 144 hours after. We managed about 56. And P4s, which is the residential zones, within 21 days, and we were within our 21 days with those as well. And alleyways, we did not do them this year. They were regraded in the spring. So our financial report, these are based off the Alberta Road Builders Heavy Equipment Construction. So our equipment and labor came to $231,556 and some change. Fuel was about $126,557. Overtime was about $37,000. Our contracted services for the snow dump was $43,000, and we used we used for a couple gentlemen for snow removal for the tandems. Sorry. So we'll go to the sidewalk and trails report now. Our snow policy and ice policy CS9 was adopted by Council May 2nd, 2023. Our snow season events, we had 18 snow events that met the 3 centimeter threshold for the sidewalks, which triggered full cycle clearing of all priorities. And we had 30 days of snow clearing. 15 of those events met the 5 centimeter threshold, triggering full clearing of the highway one-ways. Our sidewalk and trails group, equipment and resources, they have 2 John Deere 1555s, that's sweepers and blowers, a Ventrac with a sweeper, a Toolcat with a sweeper, our new MT7 tractor with a snowblower and a salter. And we have now 5 staff, 8 hours a day and 5 days a week, with option to borrow staff if needed and hire contracted services as needed. So our financials for sidewalk and trails. Total cost this year was $51,530. This includes fuel, labor, sand, and salt, and a total cost of $23,000. This includes the machinery. Our highway contractor costs were $86,812, which we have $35,688 left in this year's budget for Q4 2026. So we have a total cost of $161,443 for the sidewalks and trails this year. Our parking lot clearing, which contracted out this year, we have a contracted budget of $50,000. This is the same as our snow policy, a 10 centimeter threshold. We only used them a few times in 2025 and once or twice in 2026 because of the cost was quite expensive. We killed off the budget quite quickly and then cleared it with our own and using them very particularly what sidewalks or what parking lots we needed to be cleaned. And our remaining budget for 2026 is $45,100. So I don't know if you can see it on the map, but there's a list of all of the parking lots that we do clear with this contracted program. Civic Center, Leisure Center, Griffiths Park, Medical Center, Fire Hall, Museum, Library, Kinsman, and Wilmore Park. Recommendations: the council accept the Q4 2025, Q1 2026 snow and ice report as information. Any questions?
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Fogarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor, just wondering about Mr. O'Sullivan, is there any, first of all, thanks to all the crews. I know snow clearing is kind of this thankless job that no matter how well it's done, somebody's always going to be a little upset by it. Is there anything that you learned from this particular season? I see the last update to the roads policy was 2023. Is there anything that you would see that we might want to do differently or update on the roads clearing or even the sidewalks and the trails?
Through the mayor to Councillor Fogarty. We are hitting our policies, policy numbers. We're well within our 1, 2s, and 3s and within our residentials. I would say possibly looking at, temporarily looking at a east side snow dump as to our west side snow dump that would extremely pick up our numbers on the residential side and not have our snow blower sitting there. Because our snow blower moves snow so fast, 4 trucks, it just kind of shoots them through from 5 minutes, and then it's a 15-minute round trip, so he's sitting around for, 5 or 10 minutes. An east side snow dump, which we'd like to put in temporary for 2020, Q4 2026, Q1 2027, and we could track the times and what it's going to save and come back to council with some more information on that.
Council Wilson-Lear.
Through the mayor, to Mr. O'Sullivan, GM or Manager O'Sullivan. On page 2 of the RFD, that was something that really stood out to me was the option of the proposed temporary east side snow dump and the reducing hauling distances and the snow blower waiting and that kind of thing. And that was my question. And I just want to make sure that you covered in your answer just now. But regarding the estimate of the operational savings that could be achieved through a temporary east side snow dump. And I guess I'm really asking that what specific criteria would administration use to determine whether a pilot was successful enough to justify a future permanent snow dump? And would those results include a cost-benefit analysis, which you just mentioned, for council's consideration, but it would involve travel time, fuel consumption, labor hours, all that encompassing, and staffing implications maybe as well?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wilson there, absolutely. Everything you mentioned, we'll keep tracking of everything. Staff time, fuel costs, travel time to and from, the savings of time from going from the west side snow dump to the east side snow dump. And then we'll find out, where the line is, which is the best way to go which side. We can bring that back, formulate a plan to make a permanent west side or east side snow dump, and then bring that to council for their consideration.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. O'Sullivan. While you're compiling those numbers, can you pull into that information what it would cost just to add contract dump trucks? Because in the past, we used to just bring in, we'd hire all of anybody who had a business license with the town of Edson, we'd hire their dump trucks, and the snow blowers never stopped moving for the day. No matter where they were pumping that snow, and they had the town cleaned pretty fast. So before we go and spend a pile of capital on another dump, let's look at what it would cost. It does twofold. It does support those companies that are slow in the winter, and maybe we don't have to spend a bunch of money with regulated dumps, because I know they're not as simple as they used to be now with salt. So maybe bring back some numbers on what contracted services would cost to bring up additional hauling. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny, absolutely. Yeah, we will make sure. I already have some rough numbers in place on what it would cost per kind of 15 days for hiring one truck. Never mind, adding in 3 or 4. We only have one contracted gentleman that signs up every year right now. We would have to reach out to some of our counterparts in the construction industry if we wanted to add a fleet.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. O'Sullivan and all of council, I do echo Councillor Wilson-Lear's points in terms of wanting that cost analysis, and I also thank Councillor Pisichny for bringing up the option of contractors as well. The current snow dump we have, which near the airport, I know this happened not the previous council, maybe the council before that, had to do a massive upgrade, and I believe the cost is in the RFD somewhere around about $800,000. We have a lot of capital projects happening. It should be noted, and Councillor Fogarty had said it, we thank you, your crews. Your crews are not only hitting the targets, but you're hitting the targets out of the park. We have the option, and of course we will have the option to explore this, but we do have the option of contractors. And Councilor Pacisti's right. Contractors may be the easier solution so long as we're hitting those targets. And we're seeing, according to the RFD, we're not seeing an incredible number of complaints and concerns regarding the snow removal, which is hats off to the crews. So it'd be a tough sell to spend that amount of money on the east side dump. But I await sort of the cost analysis and some numbers from you and your department, and we'll have a future discussion on that.
Thank you. Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the Merit Administration. And again, you know what? When I look at these policies, I think the policies really work well for our community. Snow removal, you're never going to please everybody, and we understand that there's always going to be concerns in that. But having traveled to other communities, I think Edson has probably one of the better snowfall policies going, and our residents, at the end of the day, I think are really appreciative of the work that's been done out there by getting the snow removed from all the streets. And I think it's a great service that we provide, and I just wanted to commend, again, like the other councillors have, your staff and the approach to taking snow removal in our community. It does work well.
Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions? I've talked about this. One of the things that drives me nuts is that blower is very, very good. So if you're in Hillendale or on the east side, that blower could be sitting upwards of 20 minutes, depending on traffic and what's going on at that time. So I really, especially for the upcoming snow season, I think, hiring more contractors, I think is appropriate. You'll lessen the time that crews will have to clear the snow. Also for priority ones, I know priority 1, 6th Avenue, it takes a while to get all that done. It's a wide street, it's a long street, and getting some contracted trucks in there can really speed things up, especially on the east end of things. Once you start getting west of 50th Street, it's going pretty quick. Snow removal is a lot quicker than on the east side. I can't see us supporting. I'm okay with a temporary site if it's not going to cost us money, but for us to spend capital on another snow dump, I don't think is in the cards anytime soon. Especially, I'm not going to be voting in favor of any new projects until we get First Avenue fixed. It's an atrocity, and we need to get serious about getting that fixed. But I am open to contractors and adjusting our policies as need be. You guys did a fantastic job this year. I don't think I got a snow removal complaint, knock on wood, this past season. It's always a little bit slower at the beginning. It's the first snowfall, but and that 10 centimeter threshold is a little high, I think, for the first snowfall, because it is a lot of snow all at once, but you guys have been managing it pretty good. So the other question is, did we tow any vehicles this past winter?
Through the mayor, to the mayor. No, we did not. We were working with a plan with bylaw. Unfortunately, with some staffing changes, we never got to see that through to fruition. So we will try again working this year with bylaw and hopefully get some cars towed if they're going to be there for more than a day. Because there was cars there that had snow all around them and dry pavement underneath them all winter. Yeah, and it's very frustrating.
From my point of view, Mr. O'Sullivan, I think there's, people sometimes miss the signs or whatever, and that's understandable. But we have chronic offenders that never move their vehicles, and it's unacceptable. And it's unacceptable for those neighbors who do move their vehicles and then have to deal with the amount of snow in the springtime during the melt because it hasn't been cleared properly. So, as I said before, I'm certainly supportive of that. But the policy that we have here in the town, as has been stated, is really, really good. Just ask our neighbors to the north about the snow removal complaints they got this winter. Edmonton, and I look at what other municipalities are doing, and we're usually in residentials 2 weeks before any other community out there. So hats off to your crews. I do think there are some efficiencies that can be found on the east side with hiring contractors. So thank you for the update. Council will take a motion for the floor to accept for information, please. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move the council accept the 2025-2026 snow and ice control update as information.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Next up, Yellowhead Regional Library Municipal Levy Increase. presented by Hans Van Claveren, our General Manager of Community and Protective Services. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, you pronounced it correctly. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of the evening, of course. But I'm very happy to present for the first time down here and for you this item here. So first of all, introduction to a little bit of background for this item in front of you. The Yellowhead Regional Library, the YRL system, that supports the Edson District Public Library down here through shared regional services. So that provides, for example, of course, collections, digital resources, technology training, and interlibrary lending. This regional module that delivers, of course, services for Edson and that could not otherwise be done cost effectively on its own. That's the same, of course, for the rest of the region where we have multiple libraries. In total, 300,000 people are serviced with that. So on June 2nd, Tara Elwood, board chair, and Carla Palishuk, the director of the YRL, presented, of course, that proposed member municipality rate increase, which was followed by questions and feedback from council yourself. So today the RFD is in front of you to provide direction regarding this rate increase. The YRL Board of Trustees approved this levy increase on March 9th, 2026, and now it requires a written approval from 2/3 of the member municipalities, representing that same 2/3 of the member population. That increase, that's 75 cents per person, and that goes then from $4.85 to $5.60. So if approved, the increase will be applied uniformly for all members, and for us as Town of Edson, that means a $6,280.50 increase that starts then effective January 1st, 2027. So some other additional information to underline, and I see that I didn't click, but was it done here? Awesome, thank you. To underline, of course, the importance of the YRL services. So for every $1 invested, Edson receives $20.89 of services from YRL. And if you see that levy that's been paid to YRL around $40,000 last year, that basically gets a value of $831,000. So, and that includes, of course, the avoidance of technology, infrastructure, digital resources, loans, and staff training that happens then centrally. The rationale for that increase, 18 years, there has not been a significant increase. There was only one in 2019, but even that did not keep up with inflation. Rising cost, of course, for staffing specifically, but all the other items is significant. So YRL emphasized that the increase is required to maintain existing service levels and not to expand services. So for next steps, today, Council will vote on the levy increase. So that's a decision, of course, that requires that broad 2/3 from the other communities as well. Admin will send then the written notification to YRL. That has to be done before July 30th. And then YRL will tabulate, will take a look into all the decisions that have come in from different councils to make sure that this levy increase will take effect in 2027, January 1st, if sufficient members will approve. Of course, we will notice, let's say, from YRL coming back as information when they do that calculation, somewhere in August, we can anticipate, and that is in time for us to make that part of the budget and budget deliberations. So with that, the recommended motion is that Council approve an amendment to Schedule C of the Yellowhead Regional Library Master Membership Agreement to allow for a municipal levy increase from $4.85 per capita to $5.60 per capita, effective January 1st, 2027. If there's any questions?
Thank you, GM Van Claveren. Council, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Fogarty.
Thank you, GM Van Claveren. I hope I've said that right as well.
Yes.
For the presentation. And of course, we had a presentation recently from Yellowhead Regional Library, and they went into great detail of what we get which you've highlighted in your presentation as well. Again, 18 years since the last significant levy increase, small increase in 2019. The resources and the opportunities that we get to our library are well worth the still somewhat modest ask for an increase in levy. So I'll be voting in favor of this, more of a comment than a question. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, through the mayor to council, administration, and everyone. I had the pleasure of sitting on YRL last term, and I remember when this was first presented to the board in June of 2025, and then was brought forward for an October 2025 discussion at the greater board meeting. And I know the executive, they did stress over presenting this, because the way it was presented was essentially an 18% increase. And many of the elected officials took that moment to, and I'll use the term, to take the moment to basically grandstand and say how 18% was wrong and it shouldn't happen. And they were thinking of pulling their services from YRL. And it was a little unfair to the executive and the staff that had worked so hard on this budget, because it's, of all the regional libraries, it's I think after this, if we do pass this increase, and it does pass, it'll be the second lowest per capita funding of any regional library in Alberta. Mr. GM Van Claveren stressed what we get in return for the services. As a user of the library, I can say that we get all the tech, the Wi-Fi, the resource sharing. It's an incredible service. Not to mention, YRL was instrumental in helping us find our intern library manager and our current library manager in the last few years. So they provided an excellent resource for us. So this is not a problem. And I did ask a few weeks ago when they were here, are they looking at more steady increases to perhaps avoid what is seen as a larger increase percentage-wise? And they say they're going to build that into future budgeting. So hearing that, this is an easy, I easily support this. So those are my comments.
Councillor Wilson-Lear?
Through the mayor to GM Van Claveren and the rest of council. I was away for the presentation by the library presenters, but I was able to review that meeting and study their presentation just in relation to the levy and funding realities that municipalities haven't kept pace and they're correcting the gap. And it's about stability. And I took note of their analogy that it's about 2 coffees per year that it will cost for benefits that are so significant to our community in a effort to pay the true cost of the services that they provide and sustaining those services. And I just wanted to mention as well that what I took from that, and thanks to the council members that brought it up to our presenters, that they made a specific response to future budgets, that their recommendation to the board was to budget for predictable, stable funding going forward. So I did take that information, and I will be, even though I wasn't there for that presentation, I'm supporting this motion.
Councillor Pisichny?
Yeah, through the mayor to council, I support the motion towards this. I do also want to support what Councillor Taylor, maybe Councillor Fogarty can take it back to that board. They should do more annual increases on a regular basis, so you don't have this percentage gap, because that's on any kind of a regional board, you end up with a situation where people look at the percentage and not looking at the actual hit to the community. I really appreciate the fact that they came to us in the spring asking for money for next year, not in the middle of this year prior to a budget. So I do appreciate that side of it. But yeah, predictable, like they do need to have annual increases, and it's a lot less of a hit when you go up 25% to 25 cents as opposed to 75 cents. But when you look at the actual total numbers for a municipality, it's something that we can easily absorb into our budget. So I do support it.
Councillor Fogarty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to council, thank you to Councillor Taylor and Councillor Pisichny. I will bring that forward at future meetings for YRL about more modest but regular levy increases moving forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We'll take a motion from the floor, please. Counselor Fogarty.
I move that council approve an amendment to Schedule C of the Yellowhead Regional Library Master Membership Agreement to allow for a municipal levy increase from $4.85 per capita to $5.60 per capita, effective January 1st, 2027.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, Fortis Power Line upgrade options. Clayton Kitlich, General Manager of Infrastructure and Planning. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a little background on this project. So Fortis, like any other organization, has a capital plan where they do upgrade projects across Alberta where they have their infrastructure. In this case, there was a project this year in Edson to upgrade some infrastructure and conversion to three-phase power along some existing infrastructure along 70th Street north and south, then along Highway 16 eastbound, starting at the west from 70th Street to just west of 59th Street. As mentioned, the 70th Street portion is actually an overhead system where they're upgrading. That includes replacement of 17 poles and then rebuilding of 630 meters of overhead line. The Highway 16 portion is actually new infrastructure. It's about 1.5 kilometers of overhead line, starting at 70th Street and then heading east, connecting to an overhead system that exists right now just, again, west of 59th Street. It does include going underneath 63rd Street to cross. There's also some vegetation removal along the north ditch of Highway 16. It's not on the slide, but I wanted to make note that Fortis's standard level of service is typically overhead infrastructure, or like for like. And what I mean by that is if the existing infrastructure was underground, they would upgrade or replace with underground. If it's overhead, they'll overhead, but their default is typically overhead infrastructure. They are certainly willing to go underground at the request of a municipality. And in this case, they've halted this project. They started it earlier in the spring, and they've halted it, awaiting a decision from council on these particular options that I'm going to present tonight. The caveat on going from an overhead system to an underground in any particular location is that the municipality would have to pay the difference between the cost for the overhead infrastructure and an underground system. So just for a visual visual of what I just described, again, it's along 70th Street, running north and south. I believe the power lines are on the west side of 70th Street within Glenwood, and then when it comes to 4th Avenue, it crosses over to the east side. At least I think that's what the plan will be. And then along the north ditch of Highway 16 eastbound, all the way from 70th Street again to just on the west side of 59th. And again, this is all proposed to be overhead infrastructure. We have three options, well, actually 4 options for council to consider. One would be amending the project to include underground infrastructure where it goes underneath 63rd Street and then continue to have it underground moving eastward to where it daylights at 59th is option 1. The remainder remain overhead infrastructure. Option 2 would be to do the middle section at the entrance to town on Highway 16 eastbound on the north ditch between 70th Street and 63rd Street to push that infrastructure underground, and then daylight again on the east side of 63rd, connecting to the existing overhead system. And then the third option would be to run the whole length along Highway 16 to a buried underground system. Again, leaving the overhead infrastructure on 70th Street in its current form, upgraded as an overhead system. One thing I forgot to mention is Fortis did let us know about this project, that it will actually help the town of Edson with some redundancies to hopefully minimize the amount of power outages that we have in the future. It provides a second major link into town that should be helpful for minimizing and mitigating some outages. So Fortis was kind enough to give us some quick estimates based on these 3 options. Option 1 would have an additional cost of just over $300 $35,000 to the town of Edson to go underground. Option 2 would be $584,000 and change. And option 3 to do the whole section along the highway would be just over $740,000. And the fourth option for council would be to not approve any of these and let the project continue on as planned by Fortis. So one thing I wanted to mention is the estimates that I just shared were estimates based from their field staff. The official process for Fortis to change this, his next step would be to send it off to their engineering department to produce an official quote for the changes. In a meeting I had with Fortis folks about these estimates, they're fairly confident they're not going to change much. The reason they're so confident is because they've already been in the field, they've been working in this area, so they understand the constraints and the conditions and what they're up against, so they're fairly confident. But the quotes are subject to change based on that work. And then once that quote is submitted, we would have to sign off and approve that quote before they would proceed with the work. Ultimately, if council chose one of the 3 options that required extra funding, we would have to bring that final quote with the final number back to council for a decision. So this becomes sort of a timing thing. If Fortis was if the decision was made to go with one of options 1 through 3 tonight, Fortis will go back and create that quote. I don't know exactly how long that would take them to produce. If they could get it before the July 21st council meeting, we might be able to transact that and have the project completed before the end of the year. If they weren't, it starts to get to a point where they could have a challenge completing it. They've deployed their crews in other projects across Alberta now, and now it's a situation where they're getting scheduled elsewhere, and getting them back here will be something they want to schedule sooner than later in order to finish it. The other note is that the way Fortis works with this type of a scenario where the municipality is funding their proportionate share of the underground, they don't invoice the municipality until the project's completed. So if this project's completed towards the end of the year, we probably get invoiced before the end of 2026 for any increase that council decided to go with. We provided a recommendation for council this evening, and that is to direct administration to pursue a quote for option 3. But I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, first we'll go to Councillor Pisichny.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council and to administration. And thanks to Fortis, we got in contact with Fortis. They've paused their project. I agree with the upgrades. Upgrades are needed. As you drive into Edson, that was an area that didn't have any overhead power lines, and you can see where the poles are now because the poles are in place. And they definitely detract and take away from our community. It's like taking 2 steps back, especially where we have our business frontages. You now have poles in front of people's signs and poles and poles and poles, and they haven't even got the wires on them yet. This is an opportunity for us to use those energy reserves that I always try to defend that we save for burying power lines. And here's an opportunity where we get to bury power lines that Fortis is paying for what they would normally pay for their overhead. And so I'm hoping the rest of council can see the fact that, and you can see it right now, it's a big change in the aesthetics of our community, that we can hopefully at least option 3. I like it. I mean, there's already overhead power lines in the other areas, but we didn't have overhead power lines where they were putting these. And we struggle enough as a community with the aesthetics of our community and what people say about our community, and here we are kind of going 1 step back. So I'm hoping council can support the idea, but I definitely am 100% behind option 3. And I think our reserves are about 1.5 million in the energy reserves. So maybe CFO McDonald can answer that, but that's my 2 bits.
Thank you. Go ahead, CFO McDonald.
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny, the current balance is approximately 1.7 in that account.
All right, thank you. We have a lot of people queued up here, so this will be fun. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the mayor to GM Kitlitz, and I appreciate administration bringing forward these options. I do understand the long-term aesthetic benefits of underground power along one of our primary gateways into town. so my questions are not to detract from that or from the positives that brings. But I am interested in repair response, and I'm not sure if you can answer these questions for me if that were come through the quote from Fortis. But underground infrastructure can reduce weather-related outages and things like that. But are faults more difficult to locate and repair the overhead systems? And I'm not sure how that affects the community. So they're just questions that I want to understand in terms of when it is underground, if we have an outage, are residents are located on those corridors or businesses, are they waiting longer? And just in relation to our soil characteristics when we're doing that in our winter, I just want to understand fully what, and who we would bear those costs if HVAC or Fortis would, when they come in to fix. And okay, that's good. That's part of my question. And do we have the, and sorry for my ignorance on this, but if that buried section went down, is there grid capability to fire people back up so that if there is extended days of fixing underground lines, that they would not be waiting, longer periods of time of what it would be able to quickly fix overhead? And I understand the weather things with overhead. We had windy days this winter, just coming here tonight. So there's benefits of both. I just want to understand that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Gene Kitlitz.
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Mayor. I wouldn't have an answer to that. We'd have to go back to Fortis and ask them. Definitely they repair for the repairs on their own lines. Given this is an infrastructure that's going to provide some redundancies, I guess it would conceivable that they could use the other system to help. But we'd have to go back and ask them those questions. I'm happy to do that. We can get some answers and share them by email with council on whether the risk is higher with an underground system compared to the overhead in terms of outages and repair times.
Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to council, I actually will support, along with Councillor Pisichny, on this item. Aesthetically, it's not very nice to see those poles standing there and they're going to be covered in lines and stuff like that. The big thing about that is funding it through the energy reserve. I think we have in our RFD here a secondary where we could provide pre-approval and funding from one of the options, including a maximum of funding amount so that administration could sign off on a formal quote that we can get this up and going. I would recommend that they gave us a quote of $740,000 roughly. I think we would max that out about $815,000. Possibly that's a 10% leeway for them or for us, and I would support that we do go underground with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fogarty.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just one quick question. Would there be any cost incurred for the work that was already done? Because they were preparing this already. So that'd be my first question. I guess to GM Kitlitz.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So based on what they've told us in these estimates, they've already taken into account into all that work. And the poles that are already up, they've left them there just to wait for this decision. If council decides to go underground, they'll salvage those. And so they've given these estimates based on what the additional costs are. So there'll be nothing else above that from what we're told.
Okay, thank you. And just my other comment, what my other question was going to be, where would these funds come from? It's been an expensive evening, and I was concerned about the large number of 740,000. So thank you to Councillor Pisichny for, I mean, if we have energy reserves and this is an energy project, then that's a logical place to take that from. So I'd be in favor of getting a formal estimate for option 3.
Thank you, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo a lot of what's been already said here. I think it makes a lot of sense. We have the energy reserve there, and I know in the past it was kind of designated to, like Councillor Pisichny said, to burying these underground power lines in our community to make it more appeasing. Even where it ties in on 2nd Ave on 59th Street, it ends there. It actually runs across south off the highway corridor from there, so it'll be seamless. There'll be no above power lines all along that highway corridor, which is, again, we're talking about beautification of our community. This is one thing that can really assist that. The poles today are there. But like I say, when you visualize the power lines, I agree with what Councillor Pisichny said again, it's really 2 steps back, and I would support this, getting the quote to see what that actual number is and moving forward with underground power lines there.
Thank you. We will go to Councillor Taylor and then Councillor Pisichny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My arm was getting sore holding it up so long. Great comments through to Mayor to Council and Administration. My first question was about timelines, and Councillor Holden sort of brought that up, that perhaps we do a sort of a preemptive motion with an amount that we could budget ahead of time, as our next meeting is not till like the third week in July, whether or not we need a special meeting if this quote comes back and we wish to proceed. But I'm supportive of proceeding with this as well. So 2 questions, and sorry if you did answer the first question. Looking at 70th Street as not a possibility, like that it wasn't a possibility to bury those lines. Just elaborating again, I mean, you may have answered this, my apologies, about why we couldn't bury those lines if that's not a part of the plan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we didn't ask for that option from Fortis, and I guess the rationale was there's existing overhead infrastructure there right now, whereas along the Highway 16 corridor, there was nothing, so it was going from nothing to overhead. So we didn't ask for a quote. I don't have any information to tell me they couldn't bury that if we asked them for a quote for it. We just we didn't make that ask.
And I'll just I'll just supplement on that. When we did meet with them, they were happy that we weren't asking about 70th Street because it's way more complex with entrances, transformers. They said that would have been more of a nightmare, where they were able to pause on the highway because it's pretty straightforward in terms of a project and project management. So that's the reason why.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have talked about burying power lines, and again, this was an opportunity perhaps to get into 70th Street. Councillor Pisichny has brought it before. Not only is it visually appealing, there's a safety element attached to it as well. So question to Mr. Kitlitz, this is my second question. Obviously, to do this work, I assume that Fortis would have had to approach the town for a development permit or some sort of construction permit of some kind. If in the future they do that, can it be sort of triggered to say, hey, here's an opportunity for council to look at burying these lines instead of trying to do this as in a panic like we are right now, that it's sort of built in, that we can sort of say, okay, they want to do this infrastructure upgrade. How can we partner in on that? How can we build it into our capital plan? So we're not almost scrambling to do this, in the middle of the summer. Maybe it's planned out within our capital plan. We know in advance next year they're looking at different areas and things like that. Is that a possibility when these projects come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first question, the process is we have what's called a work on town lands application, and that's typically where these would come through. They're approved through our infrastructure department. They're circulated to the manager, the fire chief, transportation manager, and utilities manager typically for comment. It went through an approval through that process. Our staff, we didn't flag the going for underground, and with council direction, we would certainly do that. And I think from this point, I've talked to my staff about at least let's be mindful of that in the future. But other municipalities, based on my understanding and talking to Fortis, adopt bylaws or policies that suggest that they want to have all that infrastructure go underground if possible. The caveat to that is that you have to be prepared to fund the difference between the overhead and the underground. I also asked the same kind of question to our representative at Fortis, if they could share their capital plans in advance, because then we could do some of this work in advance and have funding ready and do some of this work in advance. And the answer, unfortunately, wasn't positive. They said they did have a previous employee that was really good at working on this capital stuff, and they knew a lot of it in advance, but over time they become a bit more reactionary. So we'll continue to ask those questions, because I think I would agree that's way better than doing this on the fly, because even if they come to us for work on town lands, they've already designed an overhead system, right? So if we say halt, we want to get a quote for an underground, they're halting and they're going to do that work. So it'd be nice if we could catch it and say it's 3 years from now, give us a quote right away, right? So we'll continue to work on that, but as of right now, this is kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Counselor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councilman Wilson there. One of the questions you had was about the maintenance, and once Fortis buries the lines, they still maintain the lines, just as they would the overhead. And when we met with Fortis, they said the preferred is underground. It's safer. There's less inches. Cars don't hit it. And I do know from personal experience, because I had one of my phases go out of my house, they can find it right away and they just dig a hole to fix it. So, but there's way less problems with underground because you don't have the tree issues and weather issues and car issues and truck issues and you know, logging truck booms up in the air issues and all the other fun stuff. So.
Counselor Wilson, why am I having such a problem saying your last name?
That's
Go
okay,
ahead.
it's two names. Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny, thank you for that. I wasn't aware of that being a preferred, so that's why I was asking those questions. Certainly not, like I said, I didn't want it to reflect on the fact that I see the amazing benefits of the aesthetic value, so that helps me. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, just to echo what Councillor Pisichny said earlier, a big thank you to Fortis. They responded right away. They met with us within 2 or 3 days, and were willing to pause the project. One of the benefits was it was their own crew. They didn't have a contractor. And then working with them, they were able to redeploy their crews. So I do appreciate them doing that. I think we have found a gap within our policies here at the town, which I think need to be addressed. I think you probably need some council direction on that, Mr. Kitlitz, to bring a policy back. So I will be proposing a secondary motion following this one regarding that, so we can have a future discussion. It is surprisingly how much that area has changed with those poles going up. So I am in 100% support of this. I guess we still will have a line crossing over 2nd Avenue, though, over by the Canadian Tire, because there is a line that goes across. So that won't be addressed with this. But at least, at the very least, we're not going backwards. We're going to keep the area the same. And I would suggest, too, whoever makes the motion may want to amend that to direct administration to proceed if the quote's within 10% of, if the formal quote is within 10% of the estimate. To be funded from the energy reserve. And GM McDonald is has a smile on there. So, Carly, do you want to put that up on the screen?
And Mr. Mayor, I move that council approve funding up to a maximum of $815,000 for the Fortis Underground Power Line Installation Project between 59th Street and 70th Street within the north ditch of Highway 16 corridor to be funded from our energy reserves.
Does that work for you, Mr. Kitlitz?
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Mayor. If the quote comes in under that, we'll just sign off on it and get them to go.
All right. That way we're not holding up that project any longer. So that's great. Are you okay with that, Ms. McDonald? All right, thank you. Council, we will open the floor to debate. Anybody want to debate this? Councillor Pisichny's ready to go. All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, next up, Ms. McDonald, the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board appointments. Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Okay, before you is a bookkeeping item for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board appointments. Edson partners with the municipalities of Hinton and Jasper on Regional Assessment Review Board. The board hears property assessment appeals region-wide, and the council must appoint board appointments annually. The authority is provided to us in the Municipal Government Act and the Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw number 2224. So our annual appointments, council appoints a clerk to administer the functions of the municipality's board activities. That's for our own use. And then the council also jointly appoints 2 roles for the region, the designated chair as well as the designated clerk, noting that last year we supported the designated clerk position for the region. These appointments ensure that the board can function and conduct hearings, and the roles are assigned on a rotating basis across the region. This process supports a shared, coordinated regional approach. Municipality appoints clerk that manages the notices, documentation, and communication requirements for each municipality, and the designated clerk coordinates the hearings and regional scheduling. Costs are shared with hearing expenses paid by the municipalities where the property is located and of course, appealing. The chair remuneration will align with the council remuneration policy of the municipality in which the chair resides. Our next steps is administration is collaborating with the regional partners to review options to improve coordination and efficiency of the board administration. And the town of Edson requires appointment of 2 board members, but have not been able to recruit members to fill these seats. Our partner municipalities are facing similar challenges as the role is quite technical, and members need to go to ongoing training on a regular basis to stay current on the legislation. Collaboratively, we are looking together at a third-party service delivery model to support each community rather than a shared regional board. However, in the meantime, we ask that council move forward with appointing Tricia Papke as a Assessment Review Board clerk for the town of Edson and appoint a Hinton member for the designated clerk position and to appoint another Hinton member for the designated chair position. I'm open to any questions council may have.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to CFO McDonald. You talk about recruitment challenges, and we talked about the ongoing training and stuff like that. Are these volunteer positions? Is there, like, when we send them off for training, do we cover their expenses and reimburse them for their time and stuff, or is it just volunteer when they go to the training?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Pisichny. We support them with the training. The training itself is like a 3-day course, and it's quite comprehensive. And then there's refresher courses that they have to take to keep their certification up. So it is quite technical in nature. The type of people that we want to recruit to something like that is someone like a real estate, understanding assessment, understanding the regulations as well as the Municipal Government Act in order to support listening to appeals and making a decision on behalf of the municipality. So it's difficult in this environment today to have people volunteer, and even if you pay them for a slight remuneration, it's a lot of work in order to support doing that role, and you might only have one hearing in a number of years, right?
For a follow-up to that, a further question. So the reason I asked about the remuneration, like maybe the remuneration models are holdback. I mean, to ask people to take away from their businesses or their day of work to go do stuff, it should be, fairly a fair agreed amongst municipalities remuneration, because maybe we may have a better chance of getting people to partake. But I don't know what the remuneration is. So I was just more curious if we had hazards, like asking somebody to volunteer and say, hey, give up 3 days during the week, and if they're not retired, then they're like, well, I have to give up 3 days at work or 3 vacation days or whatever the case may be. So people may be less inclined to partake. So anyway, thank you.
Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to Ms. McDonald. I'm just kind of following up with Councillor Pisichny. In the remuneration a little bit, I'll leave that part to the financial wizards, but I see that the terms are a 1-year term. Would it be a better expectation to get somebody to sign on board if the remuneration met what they were hoping for maybe a 2 or 3 year term? Because you're going to go take a course for 2 or 3 days, and then you're going to have to do some upgrading, and by the time you get all that done, half your term's over. So is it a possibility that that board could review that and maybe up that to a 2 or 3 year term? You might also be able to get somebody a little bit more to invest their time if they knew they were going to stick around for more than a year.
CFO McDonald, we are getting a little bit off topic. We're about appointments here, so
Thank you for the comment. I'll take that into consideration for collaborating with the region.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to CFO McDonald and excuse me, Mr. Mayor, only because CFO McDonald brought up the contracted services. Do I have the question? Are other municipalities looking at this? Because this board is very specialized, and just looking at if other municipalities are looking at it, as I would be supportive of going down that route in the future, because these appointments are very difficult.
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, I believe the town of Whitecourt contracts out for it, and they have found quite success with it too. There is, I believe there's 2 service providers that provide this service on a regular basis, and it reduces the amount of administrative burden that the municipality faces in dealing with this.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Fogarty.
I move that council appoint Tricia Papke as the Assessment Review Board Clerk for the town of Edson.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a second motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that council appoint Melissa Delorme of Hinton as the designated clerk for the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a 1-year term starting June 17th, 2026.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. And can I get a third motion, please? Councillor Pisichny.
I move that council appoint Lila Moselle from Hinton as the designated chair of the West Yellowhead Regional Assessment Review Board for a 1-year term starting June 17, 2026, with designated chair's remuneration expenses to follow Town of Hinton Council remuneration policy.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Council, I made a mistake on item 4. I was going to do a supplementary motion, and in my effort to move the agenda along, I forgot to do that. So with your permission, I would like to make that supplementary motion now. I just want to make sure that nobody's going to call a point of order on me. Yes, yeah, see, here we go. Ms. Williams, I would like to just make a supplementary motion on the Fortis power line upgrade options, that council direct administration to bring back a policy to a future committee of the whole meeting to discuss how to deal with underground burial projects. Is that sufficient for you? Or would you like different wording, GM Kidlitz?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's take a look at it here. Maybe it might be better to say how to respond on Fortis power line upgrade projects, maybe?
Yeah.
Right.
Public land use?
Public
think-
land use.
I think it's a Fortis specific.
Yeah.
The council direct administration to bring back a policy to a future committee of the whole meeting regarding Fortis underground burial projects.
It's vague, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, we're clear on what council's looking for. But
All right, that works for you? Any changes?
they're not always underground though. They're over. I think you can just say Fortis upgrades in our community, right?
Fortis upgrade projects.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I'll make the motion that council direct administration to bring back a policy to a future committee of the whole meeting regarding Fortis upgrade projects in the town of Edson. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Back to Ms. McDonald, assessment services and appointment of assessor. Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. This is my last presentation tonight. Before you is the assessment services and designated assessor appointment. Legislatively, the municipality must appoint a qualified designated assessor who is required to prepare annual property assessments, and the services must be delivered by an appointed municipal assessor. The municipal contract, the assessor is provided an assessment contract extension for 2026, 2027, and 2028. We have a long-standing good relationship with Compass Assessment Consultants since 2015. They have a strong performance and a consistent delivery of legislative assessment services. And in 2023 was the last RFP that they applied for with us, and they were the only applicant. They have proposed a 3-year extension with annual increases of approximately 2% per parcel. The prices remaining consistent with comparable municipalities. When I did a survey of our comparable municipalities, of course, we're struggling to get a lot of information because they want to keep that confidential. But I did have, including ourselves, for 26, I have 6 municipalities for an average per parcel rate of 24.57. So it does bring our pricing under that average. So I think it's in the range for sure. The financial impact is listed there with the per parcel rate being the rate they charge, but there's other costs included in the overall $95,285 listed there. The increase is manageable with the existing operating budget, and the annual costs are estimated based on current parcel counts, and total contract value will adjust proportionally with active parcels. So the recommendations before you is that council direct administration to enter into an agreement for the extension of the assessment services with Compass Assessment Consultants for 26, 27, and 28 assessment years, and to appoint Aaron Steblick with Compass Assessment Consultants as the Town of Edson's assessor effective July 1st, 2026, and expiring June 30th, 2028.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Council will open the floor to questions. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the mayor to Ms. McDonald, just a quick question. I know our last RFP was 2023. What's our process to extending? I'm totally supportive of extending it for an additional term, but at the end of this term, is our practice then to go back to RFP, or what's our process, or do we look at another extension?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Schramm. Typically, I've done 5-year contracts. So in my past, I would do a 5-year contract with an extension opportunity for council to extend it for another 2-year term. So this would provide us, it was RFP'd in 2023. We did 3 years, and now this is an extension for another year. So I would recommend we do an RFP at the next time around.
Thank you. Council, any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Councillor Holden.
I motion that council direct administration to enter into agreement for the extension of the assessment services with Compass Assessment Consultants Incorporated for the 2026, 2027, and 2028 assessment years.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Taylor, do you want to make the second motion, please? I want to make sure you're involved.
Yeah, well, thank you. Gotta keep me on my toes here. I move that council appoint Aaron Steblick of Compass Assessment Consultants Incorporated as the Town of Edson's assessor effective July 1st, 2026, expiring June 30th, 2028.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We are going to go to council committee reports, which is included in your package. Is there anything anybody wants to highlight in their package? Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the mayor, all the council, and the members of the public, just want to touch base on a couple of things. On May 29th, I attended the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association annual AGM, which was their 100-year celebration. At that meeting, they did honor one of our Edson residents, Ms. Tammy Strang, as a life member for the time she's served on there. She was a council member several years ago and on that board, and since that time, she's remained as just a member of the public serving on that board. So I just want to acknowledge Tammy Strang for representing our community on that board as a life member. The second thing I want to talk about is on May 30th, I had the privilege of attending the Edson Fire Department official retirement party for Deputy Fire Chief Steve Farkas. He served over 40 years in the fire service, 32 which were for the town of Edson. So it was a great honor to attend that and really acknowledge Steve's contributions to the town of Edson.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more, Councillor Schramm, of Mr. Farkas's contributions to the town of Edson. Absolutely fantastic, and hope he enjoys a much more relaxed future few years here. So, council, is there anything else people want to highlight? Anybody have any questions about the council committee reports? I'll just mention on mine, I did note in there my meeting with Mayor Wade Williams with Yellowhead County. I just want to say that, I think that these monthly meetings with our partners at Yellowhead County are a positive thing, just to open up those communication lines. Unfortunately, we've had some miscommunication recently, and the discussions that we're having are positive on ways that we can work together. We've seen that during FCM, which we'll talk about here in our next agenda item, about how we can strengthen those relationships. Sometimes we take relationships for granted, and it doesn't matter if it's family relationships or partnerships with our neighbors in the county. So making sure those lines of communication remain open. With that, council, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that council accept the June 16th, 2026 council committee reports as set out in attachments 1 to 7 for information.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And now we're going to move on to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference reporting. Who would like to start first? Don't all put your hands up at once. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the mayor to all of council and members of the public, FCM, learning outcomes. I did write it up because I was prepared. So it was a great opportunity to attend the annual FCM conference hosted in the city of Edmonton. The conference ran from June 4th to 7th and brought municipal leaders together from across the country. The conference offered great opportunities to network with peers and discuss common interests and challenges facing municipal governments from across Canada. Just to mention, a few community leaders had the opportunity to network with included councillors from Halifax, Montreal, Winnipeg, and some communities in Ontario, and many others. In addition to networking opportunities, the conference had a very informative trade show with vendors showcasing their various products, all relating to municipal operations. The conference provided many learning opportunity sessions, and I did have the chance to take in a few of these sessions. Sessions from risk to resilience, planning your next steps in climate adaptation. The session showcased how local leaders are advancing meaningful climate adaptation in communities of all sizes, highlighting the urgency to act and the opportunities created by being proactive. Much of the discussion revolved around wildfire and flood impacts on communities, with a presentation from the Mayor of Jasper. Also attended the regional members meeting of prairies and territories and received updates on the FCM's advocacy and policy work over the past year, with a focus on issues relating to our region. One of the main ones that I really got a lot of was AI in action. real-world wins for municipal service delivery. It was a very informative session focusing on municipalities already putting AI to work, streamlining industrial and operational processes, improving day-to-day service delivery, and accelerating new home construction. Some examples of AI at work in our province were provided, including the Drayton Valley Water Treatment Plant, the City of Edmonton Building Inspection Program. The main takeaway I take from that is embrace AI opportunities, however, take a cautious approach to ensure that using an AI platform is actually needed. Slow it down, they said. Another one he did, how to pay for growth, alternatives to property taxes and development charges. The session was to focus on how to rethink how to finance the infrastructure required to support growth without being overly dependent on development charges or existing tax. While the intent was sincere, the session failed to provide any real alternatives other than potentially using the Federal Infrastructure Bank. A little disappointed in that session. It happens. In addition to learning sessions, there were 6 resolutions put forward to the FCM executive to advocate with the federal government, and they include reducing headlight glare to improve public safety, federal support for the forestry sector, pan-Canadian strategy on mental health, addictions, and chronic homelessness, strengthening Canada's defense capabilities with local governments, reversal of federal agricultural research center closures, and small business supports. And just in closing, the City of Edmonton and the FCM did an amazing job in hosting the conference. In addition to everything else, there were several political keynote speakers, and there was great Alberta cultural themes throughout, including Indigenous and local artists. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schramm. Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the mayor to all of council, administration, and to those listening. So yes, I attended the FCM annual conference and trade show, which was held from June 4th to 7th in Edmonton, Alberta. My council committee reports actually has day by day and hour by hour if anyone wants to refer to them, but I will just touch base on a few things. On June 4th, I was able to attend a study tour that was entitled Metro May Streets. Like good neighbors on the same street, great things happen when municipalities connect. I attended a 4-hour guided tour through the vibrant main streets of St. Albert and Stony Plain, and local leaders and community builders provided insight into how they are shaping strong identities, supporting business growth, and transforming their downtowns into thriving, welcoming spaces. I would like to thank both St. Albert Mayor Olivieri and former St. Albert Mayor Kathy Heron and Stony Plain Mayor Choi for an informative and detailed tour of their downtown areas and main streets, which is part of this council's strategic plan as well. So it was very, very valuable. I attended the regional members meeting for the Prairies and Territories, as mentioned by Councillor Schramm in his report, and was provided an update on FCM's advocacy and policy work over the past year, with a focus on issues and priorities most relevant to our region. And then attended the trade show opening. And there's information again in my committee reports in relation to that. Attended the opening ceremonies and political keynote speakers, which included the Honourable Dominic Long, Minister of Canada and U.S. Trade, Intergovernmental Affairs, and One Canadian Economy. My study sessions included a legal update on case law and legislation, future-proofing communities, prioritizing flood and wildfire prevention. One that stood out to me as well was making municipalities work for women, and I'll add a little information to that. This workshop focused on the way in which municipalities shape women's access to services, safety in public places, and participation in leadership. Municipalities unintentionally can create barriers that limit women's economic security, mobility, and influence. So this workshop provided concrete steps to champion making our communities more inclusive and responsive to women. I was able to attend the mayor's welcome reception. That was the Edmonton, the host city's Edmonton mayor's welcome reception. And again, that was another networking opportunity that was very valuable. Attended additional public political speakers, spent some time at the trade show, and then attended the resolutions plenary, which Councillor Schramm also mentioned in his report. Included those resolutions he spoke about, the emergency resolutions, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities maintains a database of those resolutions proposed by members and and on subjects of national municipal interest that fall within the jurisdiction of the federal government and fall under certain categories. To read those, please visit fcm.ca. And then the last study session that I also attended was alternatives to property taxes and development charges. And I'll just echo Councillor Schramm's remarks in relation to that. So, and again, trade show, TC Energy reception, Canadian Provincial Employees reception. There's one other, attended the Rural, Northern, and Remote reception, which was another networking opportunity. And then I just wanted to, just one more thing, if I can find it. Yes, so rural municipalities of Alberta alongside Canoe Procurement Group of Canada, their reception. We attended the RMA County Affair and reception with Mayor Zahara and fellow members of council. This reception offered opportunities for fellow leaders to connect, and I would like to thank Yellowhead County Mayor Williams and Yellowhead County Council members for this invitation to our council specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holden.
Well, it's a couple tough acts to follow, but I did attend June 4th to 7th to the FCM in Edmonton. It was a great opportunity to network with many other municipal leaders across from the country. I'll start off I'll hit my lower points and hit the high points later. So I did attend the regional meeting, members meeting for the Prairies and Territories. It was a long discussion about advocacy and policy work from the FCM that is on behalf of our region particularly. I also attended the opening ceremonies for the FCM and the resolutions plenary, which previous councillors had mentioned of the 6 resolutions that were passed through. One of the work studies that I attended was future-proofing communities regarding prioritizing flood and wildfire prevention, which is front and center in our minds these days. It was an in-depth discussion in prevention, decision-making, and financial implications. Of note, I did make an online comment during the seminar, and they did point it out, and it was a little bit of a quick discussion amongst the entire group, so that was great. I also attended an infrastructure listening session. It was a sharing of infrastructure concerns and success stories. I was able to share our current project, the YC Multiplex, and our great partnership with Yellowhead County. They also discussed the FCM's approach to policy and advocacy on behalf of municipalities for infrastructure. I did attend a seminar which was called the Delivering Better Water and Wastewater. It was how to fund water, wastewater, recreation, and other infrastructures, and also about regarding operational efficiencies to help to get the best value for the few dollars that we do have. It was similar to the seminar there that we didn't come up with any concrete or weren't given any concrete ways in which we could do that. There was some suggestions from some of the leaders that were there. I did also attend the TC Energy, the QP, and the RMA reception as a guest of Yellowhead County on that one, which was great to see. But the big one for me was also the Metro Main Street study tour that we took to St. Albert and Stony Plain. Mayor Olivier, former Mayor Heron, and William Choi from Stony Plain walked us through their main streets and how they develop their identity and create business attraction and retentions. There was a lot of it. The number one thing for me was a walkability. There was a mix of commercial and residential, small shops, boutiques, collection of coffee shops, and gathering spaces. And how they started to do this, to create these options for business, was they were using their land use bylaw and other options to encourage these small businesses within certain areas of their downtown and commingling them with the residential areas. They had other notes of deferring off-site levies to encourage building and development here in their community, so that was great. Yeah, it was just a very interesting time to meet people from all over the country and themselves, and I was able to engage with the municipal leaders from many Alberta municipalities, but I also met and discussed different items that were jointly of interest to council members from New Westminster, from Dorval, Quebec, Halifax, Nova Scotia. There were several Ontario cities that I sat in with, and towns, and as well as many others. So, thank you.
Thank you. For myself, so I just want to mention too, the reason we go through these reports is FCM is not a cheap expenditure for the town of Edson, so we want to make sure that we are being transparent to the public, and there's lots of sometimes misunderstanding of what these things are. They're not vacations, they are very busy days where we are educating, networking, and learning. You know, I think we all came back early because we didn't see the value of staying the additional day, so that saved the municipality some money as well. But these are really important conferences to attend if you can, and it being in Edmonton certainly made a lot of sense for members of council to be there. My favorite portion was the CN study tour, and CN did a remarkable job showing their entire operation. I learned some things being a CN community on the main line. There are 40 trains that enter and exit the Walker Yard in Edmonton every single day. So those trains inevitably are coming through Edson. The day that we were touring, there were a bunch of pipes in the yard. And I asked a question, where are those pipes going to? And the response was either Prince George, but more likely Edson. So, you know, we're known for being that regional hub of activity for the energy sector. And when you walk into the CN dispatch area, they have about 30 some dispatchers on any given day working during the day, dispatching and making sure that everybody on the rail line is being safe from coast to coast. All of Canada is done through with just a little section in Winnipeg that isn't. All the CN rail line is done through that dispatch center in Edmonton, and the room is set up from one end of the country to the other. So as the train is going, it is moving to the next pod, and so they were able to talk to the next dispatcher as it's moving down. We were able to look at the trains that were coming through the Edson subdivision, and it's really about safety. Some trains are as long as 12,000 feet now, which is massive. And depending on what's on those trains, determines what other trains are passing by at the same time, so they don't have any collisions and that sort of thing. We also toured their maintenance facility, and the passion that the staff had in the maintenance facility was awesome. They were really excited to share, you know, being from a forested community, that they have enhanced the amount of maintenance that they're doing on the trains to reduce the amount of sparks that the trains could potentially emit with the buildup of carbon in their engines. So that was great to see. And then we were able to check out one of the firefighting trains. Of course, one was dispatched here in 2023 for the wildfires. They now have 3 available. One is stationed in Jasper currently, and then I think one is in Edmonton, and there's one in the Kamloops area. And we're able to fire the cannon and to see the amount of water that shoots out of this fire train was amazing. So that was really, really good. So I want to thank CN, our government relations rep, Julianne, who was based in Edson at one point. It was great to connect with her as well. And I know that we are working on ensuring that hopefully the train does not screw up fireworks again this year. CN is really working really hard. They were really disappointed it didn't work in November, and hopefully we won't have that same situation again. So I do thank CN for that. Echo, thank you, Ale County, for the RMA reception invitation. That was really good. We were able to chat with lots of people there. Chatting with TC Energy about the McLeod River South project and the coal projects. Of course, they have an open house coming up, so I encourage members of the public to go there, especially if you're a vendor, to see how you can get involved. Midwest Pipelines is the one going to be actually doing the construction of that project with upwards of 500 people being in Edson. They will be housed in Edson in December, January-ish for that project. The resolution session to the new members of council that attended, I told you it would be entertaining. Was it not entertaining? As people wordsmithed and went crazy, and when I went to Alberta Munis and said that we shouldn't be doing something, I got booed. But there, when I got up, people clapped. So that was great to see. So I was happy to see the resolution supporting our forestry sector and resolving the softwood lumber dispute being passed. Such a critical industry. It's an industry that I don't think gets the focus it needs in this country, and it's having devastating impacts to dozens of communities in Alberta. The forestry sector in BC has been decimated, more so because of provincial policies there. But so I think seeing that support from FCM will help a long ways. I was also able to connect with the mayor of Whitecourt, who has some ideas as well in advocacy for forestry, and I look forward to bringing that forward to council here in the upcoming weeks. All in all, a great conference. The Indigenous artists that performed during the opening ceremonies, wow, blew me away. And the chat with the Minister of International Intergovernmental Relations, Dominic LeBlanc, was very, very inspirational, I guess, to see the work that is being done, and was very well received. And hopefully there will be some resolutions to some of these situations we have with our neighbors to the south soon. And that is my report. Is there any questions from the FCM reports? I think we've covered it all. Seeing none, we will move on to, we have no information items, no notice of motion, no closed meeting session. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
Mr. Mayor, there is,
A motion to accept the FCM reports for information, please. Who would like to make that motion? I was all excited. It was going to be done before 10 o'clock. Councillor Wilson-Lear, thank you.
I move that council accept the June 16th, 2026 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference reporting for information.
Thank you. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I should have did a point of order on that one. I know. Exactly. With that, at 9:47, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.